Lee is who you want by your side in the courtroom. You've seen the rest, now hire the best. Contact Lee, Cosell, and Feigley today. And now, to address the legal concerns of the community, Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM presents Legally Speaking. Here are today's hosts.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Praise the Lord for allowing us to come another day with our health and our strength. Thank you for allowing us to be alive. I have the superstar panel starting with Attorney Vanita Banks, Madison Tax, cybersecurity expert, research analyst. She really does a phenomenal job each week for us. And of course, Marlon Prime, former Department of Justice. Not the same justice anymore since Marlon left, but he was career federal attorney. And of course, the famous Milton Grime, who ushered into modern litigation the idea of videotaping police misconduct. It was just Rodney King case. But we're starting today on something that just, I was so irked, my panel, about this week. The governor in Indiana, folks, the governor and attorney general, the attorney general issued this press release. For 43 years, Indiana Minority and Women Business Enterprise Program have done something fundamentally unconstitutional and un-American. It told Hoosiers that the color of your skin or your gender matters more than your merit when competing for state contract. That ended the day. So the governor and attorney general determined that considering women and minority for government contract was illegal under the 14th Amendment. Folks, that's a category false. I can't tell you how disturbing it is. That's just a lie. And here's the problem, panel. In Indiana, Black vendors get less than 1% of any government contract, maybe less than 1/10 of 1% of government contract. And I know, Marlon, you've had a lot of experience with this. And, you know, you worked the federal system a long time. And now in Indiana, our governor has determined that we don't have the right to have any type of notification of rights to get government contracts. Look like we're going back in the 50s.
Yes. Hey, good morning, everyone, and good morning to your audience, Nathaniel. Yes, this is really distressing, and not only are we seeing this in Indiana, we're seeing it across the country, and we're seeing echoes of Chief Justice John Roberts' famous words that the way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on race. And it really ignores the history of discrimination and how we had an apartheid system in this country. So in his view, any remedial measures are discriminatory. So it will be interesting to see what the Supreme Court says once the contractor cases get to the Supreme Court. But your audience should be aware that, these rules were put in place with the executive order by Lyndon Baines Johnson that basically indicated that, hey, there had been an apartheid system and we need to open up these opportunities so minority contractors can bid for these very lucrative contracts. And the thing that's really important is that your audience should know, Nathaniel, that this is our money. This is government money. So tell me, what is wrong with casting a wide net and saying, hey, we're going to make sure those that are getting government money to fix our roads, our bridges, repair our schools, work on public buildings look like the people that are actually paying taxes. So that's the whole idea. And, before, this affirmative action, what we basically saw is that we saw contractors that were no smarter than our minority contractors, but it was an old boy network. They employed one another, and a lot of African Americans were locked out of the trades through no fault of their own. So us going backward is really going to have a really adverse impact on our community. And I think it's something that we really need to be vocal about and actually train our your listeners and our people how to really address these arguments. No, we're not asking for anything extra. We are just as qualified as anybody else. But you're right, Nathaniel, when you have government money that is obtained through tax dollars, uh, you know, we shouldn't have a situation where only one class of people get these contracts. Because otherwise, what you're basically saying is that the only people that are qualified are people that are white. And that's not true. So it's nothing wrong with casting a wide net. And our government going backwards on that promise is really detrimental in my view.
Real quick, let's go to Representative Bartlett, one of our celebrity guests. He is a state representative, and I think his last primary, he gets about 75% of the vote. Representative Bartlett.
Yes, sir.
I'm mad as hell about this cancellation of rights for Blacks in our states to get government contracts.
As you should be. I've got some questions about it. The Attorney General gave an opinion, but supply and diversity is in code. And I'm not an attorney, but I'm just not sure how somebody can give an opinion about a written law and change that law. I'm not sure, because there's three phases of government: legislative, executive, and judicial branch. And in the legislative branch, you make the laws. In the judicial branch, they execute those laws. But how does the governor come and do an executive order and change the law? How does an AG give an opinion and change the law when it's in code?
And that's in there a code 4-13-16.5, right?
Correct.
I don't know, maybe Milton, Vernita, or Marlon can answer. You make a good point.
There's another piece of that as well. When there's something that affects us, it's crickets. Well, I've not heard, and maybe someone else has, but the Indiana State Democrat Party, I've not heard anything from them. I've not heard anything from our leaders in the Senate. I think I did see something from the Senate Democrat leader, but I'm not seeing anything from the House Democrat leader. And also, like, that I struggle with that as well. And so, like, and I will be asking those questions from those leaders.
Well, I'm concerned that we don't have bar association, we don't have teachers, ministers, civil rights groups like the NAACP, the Urban League. It's almost like everybody is ignoring this mad rush back to segregation. It's almost like they don't see that behind this type of legislation that they make de facto by the stroke of a pen to help with the legislative process of getting the House and the Senate to vote on a bill. So they're retroactively repealing a state law without going through the legal process. It's insane. And apparently they get away with it. It's almost like our leaders are not concerned about this.
Well, our president is ignoring years of law. Why can't the state officials ignore it? I mean,
a lawsuit certainly should flow from this illegal action that we're discussing this morning regarding that Indiana governor's, your Indiana governor's declaration with respect to federal government contracts. I'm sure that a lawsuit will be filed. And back to Milton's point, this state executive order is an outgrowth of this administration's executive order number 14398, also illegal, entitled Addressing DEI Discrimination by Federal Contractors. And that executive order bans federal contractors from engaging in, quote, racially discriminatory DEI activities. And we know, and based, of course, on the eloquent history that Attorney Primes set out, that affirmative action with respect to federal government contractors was intended to provide open access to companies and individuals that have been historically discriminated on the basis, discriminated against on the basis of race.
Yeah, the other thing too that's really important that your audience, Nathaniel, should really realize that the Supreme Court decisions have consequences in this area, because before this activist Supreme Court in their recent decisions, courts had the authority to issue nationwide injunctions, especially if the executive is violating precedent. And what this court has done is really kind of turn the law on its head. It used to be that the Supreme Court would get involved in emergency actions when someone was about to be executed. And now the court is using its shadow docket authority to get involved and deeming it an emergency if the administration doesn't get its way and a policy is determined by a trial court judge to be discriminatory or not consistent with precedent. So what would happen before these, Supreme Court decisions, that you would get a federal judge to say, hey, this is unconstitutional. But now the court has really limited the authority of the courts to do nationwide injunctions or, broad scope injunctions. So that's certainly problematic and something that we should be cognizant of, especially when we talk about court reform.
As you and Renita were talking, and I was sitting here thinking, I can see a 5-4 Supreme Court majority decision written by Clarence Thomas supporting Indiana's governor and attorney general in their decision.
And Representative Bartlett, you can provide any help in the legislature on this issue, sir?
Well, I wanted to say this: when the Attorney General, Todd Rokita, did his press conference, he referenced Clarence Thomas and his support. I'm not sure, and I want to challenge, as I did the IBLC. I challenged the IBLC because, in my opinion, the IBLC was quiet. I think I was the first one that even addressed the issue. So I've asked the IBLC I have asked the IBLC to host a press conference right in front of the governor's door and to call for his resignation because of the majority of the MBEs, WBEs, are folk who could qualify for that, but has no confidence in him as governor. And then that's his resignation. Now, whether that'll happen or not, I'm not sure, but I'm pressing for it. And then Todd Houston, the Speaker of the House, should also take a stand because we do things in the General Assembly to make law. We investigate those laws. We have committee hearings on those issues before we vote on them, and we vote them into law. And what the governor's doing is circumventing the General Assembly. And so, like, Todd Houston and Rod Bray should have a position on this as well.
Well,
just like the U.S. president is circumventing the Congress.
Right. And I don't mean to knock Nate, I tease him a lot, but Indiana is not known for its liberal approach and ideas about matters in politics. It's one of the bastions of racism and clanism in this country, if you look back at history. So it's as southern in its thinking as Mississippi and Alabama, from what I've read about Indiana. Nate, I'm sorry to say that, but
Well, no, you never be sorry about the truth. But let me say this though. In my opinion, and I've said this to the leader of the Democrat Party, I've said this to the leader of the Republican Party. The Republicans are bullies, and the Democrats are punks. And and we've got to come off of that and stand up. But when you're being wronged, if I break into your home, you don't have a problem standing up for that. That's materialistic. But when I violate you as a person, you have to stand. You have to take that stand.
Well, Milt, what you need to know, our prior governor was not a racist. He had a strong background in diversity and inclusion. In fact, his administration reflected that. The current administration is tantamount to what we had back in the late 40s, 50s, during the segregation era that a lot of people have conveniently forgotten about. And so the second part is, in terms of what Marla was talking about, that I think is very important. See, even with these diversity and inclusion, minority vendors, African American, weren't getting state contracts anyway. Very little activity. And Marla, we talked about this off the show, but in my personal experience, because I've sued a lot of these folks, I would see the bidding process as being, quote, rigged. And here's how. Let's just say that there was an intersection repair on a major state highway, and the total project is, say, $20 million. So vendor A comes in at 20 million, vendor B comes in at 20.1, vendor C comes in at 18 million. The contract is bidded, vendor C get the contract for 18 million. And after vendor C get the contract, so it worked, I've seen this close up. Vendor C then do a supplemental repair order or whatever they do, and they get 24 million out of it, or 25 million. So the person who has the lowest bid get the bid process, and then they escalate the cost, and they get paid by the state. So this is the process that I've seen that disturbed to me, because this process excludes minorities, because the minority vendor try in good faith to bid correctly, and is a lot of variable when you do state contracts, but they lose out, because I've tried to sit some, and even when we bid lower than the amount necessary that we knew were lower just to get the contract, my clients still did not get the contract. They got underbidded, and the person underbidded got the job. And then they did supplemental repair orders. Marla, I don't know, from a government standpoint, have you seen that?
I've seen that a lot, and the term that's often used is that your audience will recognize is change orders. That a contractor will come in and put in change orders, and you're absolutely right, Nathaniel. A contract is bid at the 18 million in your example. You're right, can be 24 and even $30 million. And and a lot of times, these same contractors that overbid in this fashion, keep on getting contracts over and over and over again. So we have to ask the question to the audience: are we saying as a society that God only blessed one race, one sex of people with the skill set to do, contracts? And if you obviously don't believe in that, then what the governor is saying is wrong. You have to be able to look at who's getting these contracts, and it's only one race of people. You have to ask yourself, hey, are we casting a wide enough net? And this new ideology that we're seeing, at the federal level and across states really ignores that reality. And in fact, we're seeing, instances where they're encouraging through the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, for white males that feel aggrieved to file these reverse discrimination cases. So it's really, very, very troublesome in terms of, where we're at.
This corruption has existed throughout our entire history, though, Marlon. This is not excuse my difference with you. This is not a new ideology. This is coming back to the old rule and the old play. We had a little spell of what we thought was some light, but it's going back to what we had back in the 40s and the 50s.
Absolutely, Milton. And again, these affirmative protections were never intended to provide unqualified candidates with access to federal government contracts or corporate jobs, but to qualified candidates, and many times overqualified candidates that had historically been foreclosed from these opportunities due to the historic discrimination against them on the basis of race.
Representative, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Representative Bartlett, what can we
Yes,
do
sir.
in the legislature to fix this adverse attack on rights of minorities in this state?
First, the people need to go and vote. We got 30 Democrats in the House and 7 Republicans. I think we got the 11 state senators and 39 Republican senators. So when you're at a major disadvantage like that in a Democrat society, you got to get some more people on. You got to get some more people being there at bat. But code words, they going back to using code words, and it triggered in my mind when the young lady said qualified. But a lot of us may not be qualified because we've not been exposed to certain things, but we are qualifiable. And so, we met with the governor. Those of you that don't live in the state of Indiana, we had the only predominantly black institution in the state of Indiana was Martin University. Well, it closed. And when we met with the governor to get some assistance from the state to bring that university back, the governor's statement was this: employers are no longer paying for degrees. They're paying for work-ready individuals. If you come out of school, you're work-ready, the employer will hire you. Now, this is someone with an MBA from Harvard making this statement. He's got his, but he's telling us, the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus, that you don't need a degree. You just need to be work-ready. So what I heard him say with that statement is, I'll tell you what to do. You don't need to be smart. Just know how to do my work. And I don't think anyone else in the Black, and I may be wrong, but I don't think anyone else in the Black Caucus heard that from the statement that he made. But you see, work ready, that's what the code word that they're using now, keep you from getting a degree. And I shared with him, why not both? Because if I'm a great electrician, but I don't have the skills, the business skills, I'll never become an entrepreneur. That means I will always be working for him. So we have to pay attention to what's being said to us. Because a lot of times they will tell us what they're going to do before they do it. We just got to be listening.
Well, what about the $5 million that he didn't give to Martin Luther? Explain what happened there, because that kind of irked me, because that contributed to their failure.
Well, in my most humble opinion, and this is just an opinion, there was some money that was supposed to have gone one place and didn't get there. And he saw that, and it was an inroad for him. Now, that was supposed to be, you spend the money on the right thing, bring us the receipts, we give you the money back. Well, in that first opportunity of money, things weren't like they should have been, and he refused to give that second opportunity of money. So it wasn't all just the governor. There was a lot of stuff that happened there that we should not have lost at university, and I think that there's some players that did like they did when we lost Hilton here at South Carolina. So that used to be all owned by black folk, and it's no longer. So
Are there any millionaires in Indiana that could have come together to create a consortium of private funding for Martin University as opposed to relying on federal or other state funding?
I don't know the number of millionaires in Indiana. I'm not black, but or white, as a matter of fact. But I don't know who they are. But that's a little out of my league. I'm 100 there. But I felt like when they did away with black judges here in Marion County, I tried to rally some black attorneys to get some things done about that. Now we have 92 counties in the state of Indiana. And then we've got St. Joe. We got 5 counties. The most highly minority populated counties cannot go to the poll and vote for a Democrat or Republican judge. It's some kind of way by state government. Just in the 5 minority counties, 87 counties go to the poll and vote for a Democrat, Republican judge. In the 5 counties where the highest population of minorities, they do not have that same opportunity. And I tried to get some black attorneys together to combat that, and was not successful. And Nate, you remember that?
Yeah, I've been involved in that process since 1987. Yeah, I'm thoroughly familiar with it. But in any event, thank you so much, Representative Bartlett. I know you were conducting a meeting and stuff. Thank you for taking time out of your meeting and sharing your thought process today. Thank you so much, sir.
Keep us in prayer. Stay strong.
Yeah. Now, moving forward, there's a lot of national news, and I guess I hate to talk about what's going on with the White House, but maybe Milton, you can answer this. Another thing that disturbs me is that I see that this new police force called ICE is still like a legal killing machine, it seemed like. And I don't understand it, how they get away with it.
They undoubtedly are not well trained. The police departments have a problem with training people properly and well, but undoubtedly they are not well trained in addressing our citizens. They look at people as enemy combatants many of them from their military experience in warfare, and they approach you with, you really don't have any rights. You are the enemy. And it's not hard to understand that they don't have the training to deal with the public where they're putting them right now. So what more can I say? They're not trying to do police work in our communities. So you can't expect a mad dog not to bite.
Okay.
I have a question regarding the investigation of these ICE incidents that have resulted in the killing of American citizens from Minneapolis to Texas. Shouldn't there be a forensic analysis of the shots fired in those situations and a full body photos of the officers who are alleging that their vehicles have been rammed? Shouldn't these officers be initially segregated so they don't have time to get their, stories coordinated and that they, be interviewed? It's my understanding that there is a standard operating procedure for these types of incidents. And I don't have any confidence that those procedures are being followed.
Well,
What do you
Vanita,
think?
I'm sorry, Vanita. Go ahead, please. I thought you had finished.
No, I said, what do you think?
Oh, even in law enforcement, in our city policing and state policing, that written policy and what you're supposed to do oftentimes is not followed. The officers have an opportunity to get together before a sergeant gets there and they talk. They have an opportunity to get together even after that, and they share information and insight in what somebody's going to say and what you're going to say. So that separation of them, putting them in separate cars and separating them from each other to get their independent story of what happened. I, I have seen over my 50 some years in the courts that often is not done, even though it's policy. So it's not unusual for it not to be done here, where you have less training and of the authority. I'm sorry.
Hey, Marlon, your old Justice Department used to keep an eye on these type of things. I remember one of the famous cases that happened down in Athens, Georgia, where a Black soldier was killed while in jail down in Athens, Georgia. And the local jury acquitted the people of killing this guy. And that was one of the first cases that were prosecuted under the Civil Rights Act in federal court, and they were found guilty. Well, now it seems like we don't have that protection that used to be generally accepted way of the Justice Department administering justice. Why?
Yes, I mean, voting and administrations have consequences. That, you may recall in this past election, there were many people, particularly African American males, that were saying, "Hey, I don't see a difference in terms of, what the Biden administration was doing, and voting doesn't matter," and they voted the couch. And this is just another example of, hey, voting has consequences. Your audience should be aware that just a few weeks ago, the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division that normally takes the cases that you describe, they had a picture of new hires, and it was in the Great Hall, which is, their main, large auditorium, and it was nearly all white. In the Civil Rights Division, this division, has a great history. I mean, Milton can speak to the fact that, as it relates to Rodney King, when the Simi Valley jury acquitted, those that were responsible for the beating of Rodney King, the Civil Rights Division, as your audience may recall, came in and did a prosecution in California, and we've seen that in other jurisdictions as well. But the question presented is that it does not appear that that is a priority of this administration, and I think it was really a missed opportunity in questioning Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, who had confirmation hearings, where those questions weren't asked. At least I didn't see them in terms of, hey, what are the priorities in terms of civil rights litigation? You've been in this acting role for X number of months. What are the cases that you've prosecuted? Maybe, one of the attorneys saw that, but I didn't. And there really wasn't any organized, questioning, in my view, that would really set the stage of holding them accountable when we see, circumstances like we're describing, where there's misconduct and there's no, and the Civil Rights Division is nowhere to be found.
Okay, we will admit one of our guests. Okay. Okay, Guy, you got a question or comment for us today, sir? Go ahead.
I do.
How you doing, sir?
Yeah, doing good. I hope everybody's doing okay. I just want to point out, a lot of times we feel like it's not much we can do because we're outnumbered. But just wanted to point out, in terms of the Indiana General Assembly, there were two people that had Earl in their first name that were instrumental in the legislation, which is now floated in terms of gambling in Indiana. You might remember there was a time when Indiana was definitely not for gambling, but it was Representative Earlene Rogers, that kind of sparked that, the start of that with the gambling votes, and then bringing it up to the present. We have Representative Earl Harris Jr. Again, that name Earl, who I heard kind of sparked the interest in moving the Chicago Bears stadium to Hammond, Indiana. So I think sometimes we get discouraged because we're outnumbered, but it's not necessarily so, because actually when the time is right, nothing can stop it, so to speak. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we go to the next caller from New York. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me clearly today?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. When I lived in Indiana, and it's been some years now, when I lived in Indiana, I wish I had been more involved in the politics there. I did vote. I made sure I did that, but I didn't get involved with the nuances of the politics. And I wasn't one of those Black legacy people who could have, who was actually raised up in Indiana and could, organize and get people to help with, the civil rights movement or anything like that. So I can't really speak on that. But one of your callers, or not callers, one of your members has posted something about what happened to the Black legacy that we had and the ancestors and all that stuff that could have helped out with the situation in Indiana. And I'm curious about that. So that's one question. The second thing I wanted to talk about real quick, and then I'll get off and let other callers get on, is did anyone watch that White House speech? I mean, it was absolutely damning of his administration. And I'm not sure why he did that. Why, instead of talking about how he's going to get prices down and all of that. I mean, I understand why he has, but I'm just not understanding this administration's strategy for winning the midterms, because everything that this person in the White House is doing is actually going to make people come out more. My other question, and I'm going to get off the line, is how do we bring these people to the polls? You can register all day long, but if you can't get them to the polls, then what do we do about that? And I think the Democratic Party has to take some ownership of why people are not wanting to go to the polls for some of the candidates. And I'm gonna mute myself and let you guys.
Wait a second. Let me answer your question while you're on the line. Here's their strategy. It's very simple. Their strategy is twofold. Number one, suppress minority vote by doing disinformation. They do the advertisement on your cell phones, TV, and they're going to spend a couple $2 billion. Number two, suppress the young vote, the teenagers and the young college students. So their strategy is suppression of votes, it's just that simple. That's how their blueprint to win. They cannot win based on policy. They cannot win based upon managing the government. The government that's taken over is entered a debt total of $7 trillion in less than 2 years. In less than 2 years, this current administration. So the Trump administration, by the end of his term, will probably be about 40% of the national debt. We've been in a country 250 years, and one guy in 8 years will probably end up being 40% of our national debt. So they cannot win on policy. So their strategy is very simple. And you're saying, what can we do? I wish everybody started talking about that, because it's not a single answer, I think. All our panel members probably going to agree because, we tried everything to try to motivate people to vote. And it's almost like people just don't grasp the significant consequence of not voting. Like one of the things too you might look at is the poll numbers. In the last election, we had a large percentage of Hispanic, particularly male, that voted Republican. Well, will that change with the fact that he put them in handcuffs and putting guns and shooting at them to deport these people, whether they're documented or not? Will that change their voting patterns? Even down in Miami, for example, we've seen a dramatic shift. We elected a white female as mayor for a city that's the majority of the residents are from Cuba, right? And so we've seen some shift in the voting pattern, but it's hard to say how long that pattern is going to stay in place. I don't know.
I agree with you, Attorney Lee. I just
We lost you, Renee.
She cut out.
Yeah, I lost her.
I said, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I agree with everything that you just said. I'm just saying that this is you're probably not going to like this, but this is a white on white crime. This is a white on white fight. If white people don't get off their behinds and actually they're now, I think white people are understanding that not giving rights to certain groups is also detrimental to them as well. And I think they're starting to get this. So once they start getting more involved and see that they're losing their rights, I think that this is going to be a little bit different. I also, my personal opinion is that I'm not sure if misogyny is going to change at this point. What we need to do is get the people out to vote. I mean, give them something to vote for, give enthusiasm. And I'm seeing that with like my mayor here in New York City, Mandani. He got people out. He's got people over the country excited. Ossoff is doing a great job. Warnock always does a fantastic job. They talk sense. And that's all people want. And they have action behind what they do. So I'm thinking the more people see about the action and the things that actually can get done by a politician, I think they're coming out. The Democratic turnout has been higher this year than any other year. And I'm going to hang up and let somebody else talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, with respect to the speech this week, the fact that ABC and NBC refused to air the speech because of the misinformation and disinformation and outright lies tells you all that you really need to know. So the purpose of the speech was an attempt to undermine the upcoming midterms and actually suppress the vote and to continue to advocate the false information that is own party certified the 2020 elections. I mean, over 60 different courts have ruled that there was not fraud or no evidence of voter fraud in that election. And his own Republican Senator John Cornyn stated, and he's a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, that much of the so-called declassified documents that have been released is information that we've known, all the time, and not really anything new. And the allegation and assertion that an estimated 278,000 non-citizens voted in that election, there's been no evidence to support that allegation.
Attorney Bank, consider this. Let's reverse course and go into offensive on this issue. And there's something very simple that we need to do to go on the offensive end of this issue. And so here's the deal. Currently, in the United States, the Republican control the White House, they control the Senate, they control the House. They're over all the administrative agencies, FBI, CIA, you name it. So if they're in control of all those agencies, if there were voter fraud, then it's only been in favor of them because they're in control of everything now. So we're looking at this all wrong. I mean, the heck with what they're saying, the truth of the matter is that they control all the branches of government. And the Supreme Court is kind of rubber stamping everything they're doing. And so I wonder whether or not anybody did any study with this vast computer knowledge of people like Elon Musk to control voter data or something, since they're in control of everything. So when they're talking about the voter fraud, I think we need to look at who's in charge of the government now. I think that we have to take a close look at that. If they keep saying there's voter fraud, then why are they all in power now? It only benefited them if there is voter fraud.
We have a caller, Pierre.
Yes, go ahead, Pierre.
Yeah, this Pierre. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Pierre.
Oh yeah, this crazy mixed up country. I was just looking at a couple of items, but one of the funniest things that happened this week, one of the U.S. attorneys, I think the guy was a U.S. attorney for 58 minutes, and Trump fired him. Roger Rogoff. I thought that was something. But you know, I was looking at the Attorney General confirmation, and that show. But what I wanted to ask Attorney Primes, and I already know the answer, but I think it'd be good for the public to hear. When a U.S. attorney is conflicted or has, you know, obvious conflict of interest, what are the Justice Department guidelines as to what they're supposed to do? And I had a question for Milton, and that was on the Nolan Wells case about the district attorney going with the grand jury, and I believe wasn't one of those kids' son's mother a judge, and is she trying to finesse that case where she doesn't have to, the prosecuting attorney doesn't have to be on the hook? But that was my question for Primes. What is the U.S. attorney supposed to do when they're conflicted? And I was asking Milton about the Nolan Wells case and the prosecuting attorney turning it over to the grand jury. I'll take it off the air, guys. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Pierre, for the question. Yes, you know, there's specific rules. There's a DOJ U.S. Attorney's Manual that really deals with these questions, and internal training and you know, various you know, precedents that are now kind of being eroded. So the simple answer is that if there is a conflict, you have to recuse yourself. And you know, what we're seeing is that there was a lot of missed opportunities in the question of Todd Blanche, in my view. What I think should have been done is to hire maybe a former prosecutor, someone that has experience in questioning and really raising these very important issues. And the final point that I'll raise that really just unnerves me and those that work at the Department of Justice, you know, anybody that works at the Department of Justice, whether you're you know, a staff person or a line assistant U.S. attorney, you have to have a background check. So that means a full field FBI investigation. That's investigation of your family, you, who you've known, where you've worked at, your credit, your taxes, your student loans. It's a very rigorous process, and we have to do it every 5 years. So it's really ironic that the standards that would not be allowed for assistant U.S. attorneys, now we're allowing those standards to kind of be violated with someone who's running the whole place. So it's really disconcerting. Uh, you know, the precedent would have been had there been a referral of an attorney to a state bar association, or a judge saying, I'm going to refer a decision to a state bar, that person would not get a security clearance. And the fact that it looks like we're going to, confirm Todd Blanche, who has these credible allegations, being made by a federal district court judge, that he engaged in impropriety, and there were various conflicts of interest, is very troubling indeed.
And hey, Milton, what he's talking about,
I know I got the case. I briefly looked it up and I remember it now, as to the mother being a judge and the district attorney turning it over to the grand jury. Pierre, where there is some facts, the district attorney or U.S. attorney has the option of taking those facts to a grand jury to see if they can get an indictment, if they can get someone to agree that a criminal complaint should be filed. It's supposed to be kind of an objective finding, but it's really depends upon what kind of information they present and how they want to argue it. I mean, I understand there's a saying, Marvin, what is it about you can get an indictment from a grand jury for it's something.
Yeah, I think is that you get an indictment for a ham sandwich for killing a pig.
Yeah, something like that, Pierre. So, but it gives an appearance of fairness and objectivity. But again, it goes back to what are those facts that are presented to the grand jury in that secret room where the defense does not have the ability to be there. So what are they offering that grand jury? I don't know the relationship of the mother, particularly in this judicial system that's involved here, how far her influence goes with the charges being brought against these 3 white boys that were involved or were with that young man before he went missing. But she should probably excuse herself from any type of involvement in the investigation, the prosecution, or the hearing of the case, if she can do that. But when you're dealing with a small island culture, it's almost naive to think or believe that there won't be some influence of the outcome. And now I'm trying to answer you the best I can with the limited facts I have, Pierre, but that's how I see it. Maybe Marvin and Nate and Vanita see something different.
Yeah. Hey, going forward, there's about 3 quick things that we need to cover before we end today. We'll have a few more minutes. Hey, Marlon, one of the things, I don't like to get involved with national politics too much, but the Stephen Miller issue, Supreme Court, Trump roadmap to destroy federal agency, and then KBJ's concurrent opinion to take down Clarence Thomas quickly.
Yeah, just real quick. I think your audience, Nathaniel, and all lawyers and people that love democracy should be really concerned about the comments of Stephen Miller, who's been one of the point persons on the immigration issues. And he raised some very troubling issues, saying that there's a radical left and that they're anarchists. Meanwhile, we have people who actually stormed the Capitol that the president pardoned. So the problem is, there's a concern that there might be, extra scrutiny on those who just disagree with the administration, reminiscent of the Palmer raids that we, saw in, decades ago, last century. So it's something that we really have to watch. The other thing, real quick, that goes to some of the questions that we raised earlier about, Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas has had this view of, that, hey, it's a colorblind constitution, it's just originalism. And I really encourage your audience to really take a look at Ketanji Brown Jackson's concurrence opinion in the birthright citizenship case, where she really just takes down, Justice Thomas as really not being a serious jurist. And I think that's something that, we all should pay close attention to, because he was really contradictory. In the affirmative action case, he indicated that, hey, the Freedmen's Bureau, which was used after slavery to assist millions of slaves that were enslaved, wasn't race conscious. And then he turns around and says, oh, in the birthright citizen case, oh, it's only for Black people. So, this whole idea that they're looking at history and that guides their decision. What Ketanji Brown Jackson and other commentators are saying is that the justices they're not being accurate. They're picking and choosing the history that favors them. And a lot of historians are saying that it's not accurate. It's just a way of reaching a decision. And it's really not based upon any solid principles, something that we should be really concerned about, and your audience should be concerned about as well.
Vanita, real quickly about we're in the summertime, we're in convention. What's going on with our African-American groups?
Absolutely. Currently, right now, here in Chicago, the NAACP is convening its convention starting today through the 22nd. July 18th through the 22nd, and many of the events and programs are at no charge to the public, and some of the events are even going to be live streamed. We have the National Bar Association convention coming up next week, July 25th through August 1st in Nashville, Tennessee, where our focus will include voting rights, redistricting, artificial intelligence, and other issues impacting our communities. The Urban League will also be convening its convention in Nashville, and it's overlapping with the National Bar Association, July 29th through August 1st. And just quickly, I wanted to share that the Black Women's Leadership Initiative or the Black Women's Leadership Collective is partnering with several women-centered organizations representing 20 million Black women nationwide on an initiative called the 1 Million Black Voter Rising Initiative, where the goal is to register 1 million new Black voters by the 2028 election. So I suggest and recommend that everybody go to the Black Women's Collective website for information regarding the Black Voter Rising Initiative.
Now, Milton, you're in the second largest city in the United States, about 4 million people. What's that mayor's race look like now?
She's got a problem that I saw in the paper this morning, and I forgot the subject of, where they're saying that someone working on her campaign got a $600,000 job from her. So she's going to, Mayor Bass is going to have some problems explaining maybe some conflict in her supporters and people working on her staff. So I think that she's got a challenge here coming out of that. And I don't know the details of it. But I would like to say this as my comment overall, if you don't mind, that I was reading the paper briefly this morning, the little time that I have a little time difference with y'all, where it was said about this voters' data that Trump and them are demanding, that's all bull. That's pretty clear and evident that there is no fraud. There is no voters fraud. And what this article ends up saying is that Trump may be trying to lay the groundwork to dispute the midterm results if he doesn't like the outcome, but says his powers to do so are limited. There are safeguards and laws in place to protect the freedom to vote. Voters should tune out the noise and continue to participate in our democracy. So be sure to go out and vote.
Finally, folks, we're having that great celebration here in Indianapolis. We had an outstanding concert last night. It was a beautiful scene, a lot of African-American people loving each other. It was just a great experience. Don't forget, folks, come out to Black Expo today. We have a wonderful event that they planned for us, and I hope to see you down there at the Convention Center today. So take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Let them
Stay
know-
cool in this grueling summer heat.